Imagine being confined to a cool, damp, and completely dark dungeon. The air smells of rot, and the silence is disrupted only by that soft, steady, unending noise of scratching. Your heart starts running because all of a sudden you seem to understand, and it's not wind or clinking chains. It's so much worse than that. It's the sound of rats. Historically, rats have been viewed with dread as harbingers of disease, death, and filth. But in the seamiest recesses of human history, these small animals were turned into tools of an unimaginable terror. Welcome to the story of rat torture, a gruesome method that broke the minds and bodies of prisoners, especially during the infamous Spanish Inquisition. Rat torture didn't begin with the Spanish Inquisition, though it most famously associated with that period, but really traced further than to the Roman Empire. Notably, brutal punishment methods were characteristic of the Romans, where there was also a place for animals, such as rats, being used to torment prisoners. During the Spanish Inquisition, starting from the late 15th century onwards, rat torture developed into an elaborate method of psychological and physical subjugation. The Inquisition was a powerful body, established to cast out heresy and uphold adherence to the Catholic Church. The primary tool in eliciting confessions from accused heretics was torture. Suffering, it was believed, could cleanse the soul. These methods, such as rat torture, were designed to do much more than cause pain. They were designed to break the human spirit. But how does rat torture actually work? It was disgusting in practice as it was in concept. Then, the victim would be fully immobilized and tied down. A metal cage full of hungry rats was placed upon their exposed chest or stomach. The cage was sealed against the skin, allowing no other way out for the rat but down. Then, the captors began to heat the cage from the outside with hot coals or a fire. What happened next was far from being pleasant. The rats burrowed deep inside the body of a prisoner to escape the heat. They just burrow into the flesh, deeper into it, chewing on skin, muscles, and sometimes even bones. Imagine the psychological torture this produced. The prisoner, who understood what was happening or was going to happen, had to endure that pain in anticipation. The scratching of rats' claws on the cage, the rising heat, the feeling of those creatures frantically clawing their way through your body. It is not merely pain. It is the fear of realizing your body is being eaten alive. This form of torture was not to do with pain, per se, but to do with the control of the mind. The very thought that a rat, a creature associated with disease and filth, would soon burrow into your body, could break even the toughest person. Was built upon. Fear was what the Spanish Inquisition was built upon. They fully knew that to control the mind was to control the body. The physical pain was often sufficient to procure a confession, but it was the psychological torture, the horror of the unknown, the helplessness of the situation that truly broke a person. Rat torture turned fear into a weapon. Screaming prisoners would echo through the dungeon, instilling terror in others who were on the sidelines, waiting for their fate. It wasn't punishment in and of itself, but a calculated means to dominate their captives psychologically. A clear message was that there are fates worse than death. Why did it have to come to using a torturing method so cruel? In order to understand this, we will need to examine the greater medieval mindset regarding torture. In those days, torture little had to do with the mere act of inflicting pain. It was an issue of control and power. Through torture, a tool of control, various rulers and authorities managed to maintain order, especially during the Spanish Inquisition. The objective was not simply to punish the guilty, but also to instill fear in the hearts of all those who would dare raise their voices against the church or the crown. Torture like this was a demonstration of how absolutely an authority was in power over life and death. Rat torture, in particular, was a means to send an unending, terrifying message. The worst punishments aren't always quick and merciful. They can be slow, agonizing, and dehumanizing. This kind of torture alone could instill enough fear in subjugating an entire population. The Inquisitors well knew that fear can bend even the strongest wills. We can only look back on these methods with horror and incredulity today. How could such cruelty exist? Yet, the story of rat torture can be seen not only as a lesson in brutality, but also as a reminder of fear's powerful part in human history. The text describes how fear can be used in order to control and destroy. But at the other end of this spectrum of darkness lies resilience from within. Through it all, many prisoners endured, even though at times it was a terror of unhappiness. Some fought back, others held on to their belief systems, and still others held on to the will to live and tell about it. What is the lesson that can be derived from this macabre chapter in history? While fear might be a weapon, it is hope and courage which are so much stronger. Those who underwent rat torture felt fear and pain that few of us could ever imagine. Yet many resisted and proved to themselves and others that the human spirit is capable of rising above even the worst circumstances. As we ponder such horror tales, let us not forget the bravery of the survivors. It is a reminder that no matter how crippling fear might be, we are strong enough to face it and to beat it. Let this be something to think about when considering this grim period in history. While fear can knock us down, courage always lifts us back up. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as captivating and chilling as we did, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the darker corners of history. Continue being inquisitive, stay strong, and keep in mind, history teaches us not only about the past, but also about who we can become.